Okay, this is Dave Bizdak. I'm going to do some problems from exercise set 2.4 Q1. Since I assigned you to do some odd numbered problems for homework, I am going to go through a bunch of the even numbered problems to help out, give you a sense of how to do these problems, and hopefully make homework easier for you. Okay, so when you're translating problems from English into sentential logic, you have to read the sentence carefully and figure out what is the main operator, the main logical operator, right? So if you look at number 2, either today is Tuesday or I fell asleep Monday evening and slept for 36 hours, right? Now you can see in that sentence there's two operator words potentially, right? There's or here, which is going to be a disjunction, but there's also an and down here, which is going to be a conjunction. So which one of those is the main operator means which one is the one that has what's called the widest scope. Or think of it this way. What's the better way to read the sentence? Either today is Tuesday or I fell asleep Monday and slept for 36 hours. If that's the best way to read it, then the or is the main operator. The other way you could read it, if and was going to be the main operator, would be like this. Either today is Tuesday or I fell asleep Monday evening and slept for 36 hours. And hopefully you can see that reading doesn't make much sense, right? Because first of all, you would say I slept for 36 hours, right? But just the way the sentence reads grammatically, it looks like we have the main operator is the or, which means it's going to be a disjunction. So the first disjunct then is everything that comes before the or, and the second disjunct is going to be everything that comes after the or. All right, and it's helpful to break these into small pieces when you're doing these, right? So the or is the lowercase letter v, that's the symbol for it, the wedge it's called. And the left disjunct is what is to the left of the or. So either today is Tuesday, right? So it's either or. So the first sentence we need to symbolize then is today is Tuesday. We'll use T for that. Sorry for my bad typing. And so that means we put T here as the left disjunct. Okay. So the right disjunct then is whatever comes after the or, and this right disjunct is going to have, as we already saw, a conjunction, right? This and here. So it's going to be T or something and something else. So the first conjunct there is I fell asleep Monday evening. So let's do that with F, I guess. I fell asleep Monday evening. Second is I slept for 36 hours. Let's call that S. Okay. So then our conjunction here is F and S. And you really shouldn't leave those spaces between the parentheses. And generally just put one space between letters and operators. Oops. And that's the symbolization for number 2. So we identified the main operator. That gave us our main operator in the logic sentence. Then we looked to the left of it to get our left disjunct. We looked to the right to get our right disjunct. Okay. All right, number 4. If Barbara wins, she goes through to the final. But if Carol wins, Carol goes through to the final. All right. So again, we've got multiple operator words. We've got an if there. We've got a but, which, as you've seen, is generally a conjunction. Another if here. So again, you got to think about what's the structure of this sentence. Like, what's the main operator? If Barbara wins, she goes through to the final, but if Carol wins, Carol goes to the final, right? It's not like it's all if, all right? It's two conditional sentences. If Barbara wins, she goes through to the final, but, right, if Carol wins, Carol goes through the final. So it's two conditional sentences connected with but, or a conjunction, right? So again, our main operator is going to be the conjunction. Use the ampersand for conjunction when you're typing on a keyboard. So now the first, or the left conjunct, is going to be everything that comes before the but. The right conjunct is going to be everything that comes after the but, right? And so now we can focus on the the left conjunct. So our left conjunct is if Barbara wins, she goes through to the final, right? So that means this is going to be a conditional. If something, then something. So what's the if? B equals Barbara wins. So if B, then she, meaning Barbara, goes through to the final. So we'll call that F. So if B, then F. All right, that's our left conjunct. So then but, that's our ampersand conjunction. So the right conjunct is if Carol wins, Carol goes through to the final. So again, that's another another conditional sentence. It's going to have that form. The if here is Carol wins. So we need C. Carol wins. That's our antecedent. And Carol goes through the final, which notice is different from F because F is Barbara goes through. So we'll call this G, I guess, for Carol goes through to the final. And that's G. Okay, so again, if you break it down into parts, so first identify the main operator, then break it down into smaller parts and focus on the parts individually. Make sure you're getting a different letter for all the different sentences. All right. And if you do, and hopefully we will have some that have the same sentence, you have to use the same letter for the same sentence. The other important thing is don't incorporate logical operators into your symbolization keys. All right. So you should never have a sentence that is like, like you shouldn't ever have something like B for if Barbara wins, she goes through to the final, right? This is a bad symbolization key. You wouldn't want to ever do this, putting a line through it so you don't get confused. Why? Because you don't want to have the logical operator built into the sentence. The logical operators get symbolized with the operator symbols, right? So these letters have to stand for atomic sentences, sentences that do not have any logical operators in them. Okay, number 6. Sophia will get a scholarship only if she applies for it and pays the application fee. So now we have an only if, but we also have an and here. So again, you have to identify the main operator. Would this read Sophia will get a scholarship only if she applies for it and pays? Or Sophia will get a scholarship only if she applies for it and pays, right? So hopefully you can see that the main operator there is the only if. And hopefully you remember that only if is different from just plain old if, right? If we got rid of this only, right, it would be a very different sentence because whatever comes after the if would be the antecedent of the sentence. But once we have only if, that changes things. The easiest way, I think, to remember how to do only if is that you just substitute the horseshoe using the greater than arrow for horseshoe on the keyboard and keep the order exactly the same. So this is going to go to the left of the horseshoe for an only if sentence. In other words, this is going to be the antecedent, and this, the part after the only if is going to be the consequent. All right. So the antecedent, Sophia will get a scholarship. So let's call that S. So that's our antecedent, is just plain old S, right? It's an atomic sentence. Now what comes after the only if is a conjunction, right? Something and something else. So it's going to have this form, right? So the first conjunct there is she applies for it, meaning let's call A, Sophia applies for a scholarship. So that'll go here. And the second conjunct pays the application fee. Call that P. Sophia pays the application fee. And so that'll be here. Oops. Okay, so again, only if is the easiest way to remember how to translate only if is just drop in the horseshoe directly for only if. What comes before only if is the antecedent. What comes after only if is the consequent. And also, though, remember the difference between only if and what I call plain old if, right? So if we got rid of the only, these would be flipped around. The A and P would go first. That'd be the antecedent. And the S would go second. It would be the consequent. Okay, number 8. If I learn how to drive a truck, then if I get a license, I can drive on the road. Now, again, notice how I read that. If I learn how to drive a truck, then the rest of this stuff, right? So we have an if-then sentence. So that means our main operator is going to be the conditional, the horseshoe. And it's an if-then sentence, right? So whatever comes after the if, and again, this is plain old if here. There's no only if. That is the antecedent. I learn how to drive a truck. And then whatever comes after the then is the consequent. All right. So start with the antecedent. I learn how to drive a truck. Let's call that D. Your letters that you pick might be different. It's not a big deal as long as their symbolization key is written out. Okay, that's our antecedent. Our consequent now, notice, is itself a conditional. So our consequent is going to have this form because it too is an if-then sentence. So what's the antecedent? I get a license, right? So call that L. I get a license. I can drive on the road. Let's call it R. And so that's going to go here. All right, so it looks complicated, but again, if you can identify the main operator, then it's just a matter of breaking stuff down into the parts and doing each part, individually. I'll do one more quick. I'm running out of time. Both Xavier and Yolanda will not go to the party unless it takes place on Friday. Now, the easiest way to, again, the main operator here is unless. So this happens unless this happens. The easiest way to translate unless is just using the disjunction, right? The disjunction, whatever comes before unless then is going to be the left disjunct. And whatever comes after unless is going to be the right disjunct. So both Xavier and Yolanda will not go to the party. So both not, right, is going to be conjunction of two negations. Right? Both Xavier and Yolanda will not go. That means Xavier will not go. We have to have for X equals Xavier will go. Y equals Yolanda will go. F, it takes place on Friday. So not X and not Y unless F. And I'm out of time, so I'll be back with the rest.